Welcome to this afternoon plenary session where we're going to be talking about Daughters, the highly acclaimed documentary that focuses on father-daughter relationships, which is an outgrowth of a program that started some years ago in Richmond. Our speaker for this session will be Chad Morris. Chad Morris is a NPCL master trainer in a number of areas. He's also on our consultant team on different projects, and he not only showed up in Daughters, but he showed out. And as I said yesterday, it's so important to know that the work that we're doing, the things that we've done here, as far as preparing people to work with fathers, work with mothers, and rites of passage. Those things are transferable, and I know Chad knows this better than most of our master trainers because he has worked in each of these areas. And he was able to take that fatherhood curriculum, take it inside that jail in DC, and really bring it to life relative to him working with those men who were incarcerated, and use that as a preparation for them for this big daddy-daughter dance, which was featured in the Daughters documentary. He is a eloquent spokesperson for the fatherhood work in general, but he's an absolute star when it came to his role in Daughters. And we thought that we would invite Chad to come and share his reflections of Daughters and the impact it has had over the past year. I know he's going to be joined by one of the fathers and daughters who's caught up in DC traffic, but he will be here without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chad Morris.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? All right. It's my honor and pleasure to share with you today, not just the work that we've done particularly. I really have the heartfelt consideration that this work is just a continuation of the work of the people who started well before me and the people who continue to do this work. Before I get started into the deep dive, I'm going to give a little bit of reflection about how we got here, what this, how we got to this particular point for it to be seen. But again, I'm incredibly mindful that this work that you see in this film the film wasn't made because it was a story to tell. The story was being told. And as the story was being told through these lived experiences of these families, the hard work that they're willing to engage in, and the bravery of a few young girls who chose their relationship with their fathers to be important, it turned into something that spanned the better part of about 12 or 13 years. And what you see is one of the later cohorts of something we have been doing on rinse and repeat. Not rinse and repeat in terms of what we do with those, the delicacy of those relationships between those fathers and daughters, but rinse and repeat in terms of the fidelity of the implementation of what we provided as inputs, the level of support we provided to families after the dances and after the events, and it growing from starting with an event into being a sustainable program where we've been able to get similar results over several years and impact families in a different way and impact them considerably given the separation and fragmentation of families that happen when they're dealing with incarceration. I got a long range remote. I'm trying to make sure. There we go. So the background on this is the organization that I'm partnered with is called Girls for Change. It's a 501c3 youth advocacy organization that was founded by a lady named Angela Patton in Richmond, Virginia. She's a Richmond native as well. With a mission to prepare Black girls for the world and world for Black girls, in 2007, Girls for Change Youth led girl action teams. For lack of a better word, a girl action team, she's working with girls that are between as young as 5, but the action teams were between 8 and 18 years old. And these action teams would be designed for the girls to have ideations about what they dreamed about what they wanted to have happen. And Angela and her team were there to try to bring those things into fruition. They say nobody dreams like a child, right? When we're children, we don't have a glass ceiling on our thinking. We only know the limitations that we're given or when we stumble, but most kids dream big. And that's going to be integral to how this story developed. But with that girls' action team in 2007, during Women's History Month, the girls had ideation to celebrate their relationships with their fathers by doing a community-based date with dad dance that the girls curated everything from the design, the decor, they picked the DJ, they curated the playlist and told the DJ what he was going to play. So it was not a date with dad dance that was designed by adults for kids. It was a date with dad dance led by girls, supported by the adults that supported them, and dads were invited to their space to celebrate that relationship. Well, the first one was an instant success. They had another one the next year. Now, what happens is you had some girls whose fathers weren't present. So Angela had the ideation to have step-up dads, either people in their lives or guys who were affiliated with supporting that organization, to be able to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and stand in the place so these girls can still have this experience, even though their dads may or may not be around for one reason or another. Well, in 2009, one of the girls had an idea that she didn't want to go to the dance. And the reason she didn't want to go to the dance was because her father was incarcerated. And what she said in all of her youthful brilliance was, I've seen on television where they get people out of jail to go to funerals, get my daddy out of jail for the dance. The sheriff should do it. Angela, being who she is, pretty fearless, but wise like most adults, it's counterintuitive to us to think that we're going to take a dance inside of a jail or anything like that. But that was the girl's idea. And she said, I can't tell you no. What we can do is let's write a letter to Sheriff C.T. Woody, who she knew very well. Well, upon writing that letter, Sheriff Woody read the letter. He called Angela immediately. He said, Angela, I need you to bring whichever girls of yours wrote this letter, all these names down here. I want to set up a meeting with you. Come see me. And when he set the meeting up with the girls and Angela, he said he had never heard an idea so brave and so bold. The girls were a little surprised, but they were excited. He said, I'm going to tell you why. My goal is to get my men home. They don't need to make this a home that they keep returning to. And family is the cornerstone, or one of the cornerstones for getting people back home. So I'm all for it. Let's figure out how to do it. They figured out how to do it. And a date with dad dance, a dance of their own, which happened in an incarceration setting behind the wall, was born. Fast forward to 2013. I shared yesterday when I gave honor to Dr. Johnson and a gentleman named Anthony Mingo, we had started a grouping of about 13 site locations to do responsible fatherhood in the city of Richmond, to actually have evidence-based curriculum and carry it out. There were other people doing things that didn't have a lot of effect, nor did they have a lot of breadth. They had a lot of breadth. They were all over the place, but they didn't have a lot of depth of penetration in their program. And so upon designing a strategy, I won't call it a strategic plan, but it was definitely an intended strategy and getting some framework with the help of Dr. Johnson, we established 8 community-based site locations and partnered with the municipality, with the social service division, with the JDR courts for custody cases, juvenile cases, and also with the local jail, with Sheriff Woody. He invited us in to begin groups. That same year, selfishly, my then 5-year-old, the first time she could attend the dance was 2012. Girl had to be 5 to attend the dance. Angela told me in 2012, when my daughter was 5, I want to partner with you. I want you all to do these fatherhood groups for my guys. And we started doing those in 2013. And so providing that group transformed the dance from just being a dance and being an event. It was connected with the program. Angela was already doing the hard work with the girls, already helping mom understand the process as being the custodial parent at home, understand the process and be willing to say yes to allow her daughter to participate. We started working with the dads. So you had this simultaneous programming going on over the course of about 12 weeks prior to the dance. and even after the dance, because what we know is when you have these culminating events, like a dance, a man that's incarcerated in jail, either in transition, going to a longer stint of incarceration, or on his return back home, or he's just in that jail for a certain amount of time, there's an emotional letdown when you return to your pod and to your cell. So we knew that from the very beginning, that we had to wrap around them and not just prepare them for the dance, but really prepare them for what their lives look like after that, the emotional impact, and to help them change their trajectory on what their intentionality was. So in preparing the fathers and the mother and daughters for the events, the healing circles were started. So we did the fatherhood healing circle. The girls had their circles. Mom had their own circles to be able to vent. But all of these things were separate to prepare them for the moment. So on the day of the dance, you got this big culmination where for 6 hours inside of the jail, these men don't look like inmates. They're not dressed like inmates. They're dressed like they could be CEOs, like they could be pastors, like they could be congressmen, like they could be city councilmen, or people who had business about them for the time that they were in that dance, and their daughters were dressed like they were going to the prom, anywhere from age 5 all the way up to 18. And we were able to continue to do those things. I'll have you know that in 2012, Angela did a TED Talk about the Date with Dad dance, right? And in doing that TED Talk, it got 1 million views because it was such a counterintuitive idea, and it was so popularized because people, I will say this, people have a fetish with jail and incarceration. So when they hear about someone going into the jails, those of us who work in a carceral setting, there's nothing sweet about it. It's great and needed work, but it is heavy work. But other people who are disconnected from the process, they have this fetish about wanting to see what goes on behind the walls of the jail, almost as if it's a safari. And so at the time, the reason why I say that is she had movie producers and people who produce film calling her back to back to back to back to back. There was even a documentary completed in 2015 about this event as it related to a program in that same jail by Lisa Ling. But what they did was they told a jail story. That wasn't Angela's story that she wanted to tell. Her mission is to prepare Black girls for the world and the world for Black girls. And that's really important because she never drifted from her mission. She allowed us to have a canvas where we painted right beside her. My mission is to serve and support fathers and families, but I'm a girl dad too. And so our missions overlapped and began to meld a fabric, but Angela never mission drifted. So when all of these producers are calling her, when they said, I want to tell a jail story, I want to get in the jail, she would politely decline, put them in the file, leave them there. As they say in slang, pack them up, get them out of here. Because she didn't want to tell a jail story. That wasn't her work, nor is it my work to tell a jail story. I work with fathers, no matter where they are. To that point, she met a young lady named Natalie Ray. Natalie Ray contacted her after seeing the documentary in about 2016. And what Natalie shared with her in her initial pitch to her was, I want to tell these girls' story because I resonate with the message that these girls have shared and all the things that I've seen you do, that they don't have someone telling their story. When Angela said that, heard that, she embraced it with a bit of skepticism. And she eventually invited Natalie to Richmond. So she courted the process for about 2 years, from 16 to 2018. And they courted the process of getting to know each other. Natalie came down and worked with her girls' programs. I'll have you know that Girls for a Change does not only focus on the Date with Dad dance. It's one of a number of programs that they serve. And they still provide services for girls even beyond this. This is just one of the programs. They finally were getting ready to do one. They contacted me in late 2018 to say, hey, we're going to do this 10th annual one and we're going to do it in the local jail. But in 2018, C.T. Woody got voted out. He went ahead and took a bow and stepped to the side, and the incumbent sheriff, we got a meeting with her. And we had to have another meeting with her. We had to have another meeting with her. And what happened was, like it happens in politics very often, your program, as the exiting sheriff, and I'm the incumbent sheriff or politician, let's say that, I don't want to be connected to any of your programs. We were classified as being his program, so it was put on hold. So we didn't know what we were going to do. Richmond had been not the only place we had done them, but that's where, because so much work had been done, we wanted to make sure we did the next dance and filmed it. Well, at the same time, what happened about 2 months later, she got a call from a lady named Clinique Chapman, who worked in the DC jail, who was a program director there. And she saw the TED Talk and said, I want to bring the dance to the jail. And Angela said, well, it's not a dance, it's a whole program. And we got a film crew. So if you want to do it, this is what we have to do. Clinique said, huh? She said, okay. Angela said, no, check your email. I already sent you a scope. She presented it to her people and pitched it positively. And we started this process in March of 2019 that culminated into what you saw in the film Daughters. So what you saw is one of several years of impact. That just happened to be one cohort that we captured, following the families, or as many that could participate through COVID and those challenges, to continue to stay with the process. One of such person is Frank Walker. He's here. You're going to hear from him in a few moments. He's one of the subjects of the film if you have not seen. So let me just say shamelessly, if you have not seen this film, it's on Netflix and will be there for the next 24 and a half years. Netflix bought it. They own it. And anything Netflix owns does not go out of rotation. They keep it there because they want you to keep, anybody hears about it, they want you to get that subscription, keep it long enough to watch plenty of things, including that documentary. Okay, so Daughter's not just a film, right? What you see is a film, but it's what we all know. It brought visibility to what we've all known. There are real life lived experiences that many fathers and families have, and the voices of the incarcerated are unheard. And what we know in servicing these families and supporting these families is anyone who works with returning citizens or people in the carceral setting, the silent victims of crime are the children that are left behind, because they have to figure it out. There's no one rubric you can give them. There's no one book you can give them to solve the ills, and all of the social situations look different for these children. But they are the unintended victims, but they are definitely victims of the crimes that result in incarceration and the crime of incarceration. So even behind bars, we know that a father's role doesn't end. What happens is so for some men, there's an identity crisis that goes on when you're behind the wall. And it's not one that I think they embrace purposefully. It's the challenges of trying to survive. It's the challenges of keeping your psychology about you to deal with the day in and the day out and the day in and the day out, while you still got a family on the outside. You're dealing with the challenges of whoever the custodial parent or guardian is, whether they want you to call or connect you with those calls, whether you have the funding to be able to call, whether or not they have the resources to be able to travel to see you. What we know about the carceral setting, especially from when we started in 2007 all the way up to 2019 and even now, the visitation practices have drastically changed. The way people communicate has drastically changed. Now, letters don't make their way in at most jails. Pictures don't make their way into most jails. There's no more spraying perfume on a letter to your paramour with pictures of your children that they can put up in their cell. What happens is the letter's open, it's scanned, it's put on a tablet. You have an electronic record of it that you may or may not be able to leave with, but you will never get the letters that were sent. You will never get the pictures that were sent. What used to be in-person visitations began to be separated by plexiglass. Now, more and more incarceration facilities from federal to local levels don't have plexiglass-based visitation or rooms where you can meet. They got the video conferencing. You may travel all the way to the building and be in one section of the building on a telephone watching a screen while you talk to them on a telephone and a screen. So this has been monetized too. If you're at home contacting your loved one, you're dealing with JPay or any number of platforms where you are making payments to this system to be able to maintain contact, and the person that's incarcerated most often doesn't generate or have the income to be able to pay for those calls. So it's a heavy stress and burden on the family. So as practitioners, our work is centered on coaching these fathers and preparing them for the eventual reunion with their families, to practice some accountability and a whole lot of healing. And so we stand as way showers to remind these men of the lessons in their own experiences and to aid them in reseeding their identity and responsibility as fathers. It's hard work. and bravery defined. Because to even want to embrace the process of going through something like a date with dad dance or a reunification program, it's not all about love. It's not all easy, and it's not just peachy keen living. Okay. So before we get into this, I am very mindful of the concept of lived experiences. And I think we all know that in providing services. We all, as practitioners, we're looking for data, evidence of promise, proof of concept for everything that we design so we can write another one and expand and scale up. But what helps us greatly, once we've been in service for a while, are the anecdotes and the experiences that we have in providing these services, but the anecdotes and the reminders of what the families go through. Sometimes in the space of how we operate, we deal with a lot of self-reporting, right? When we're dealing with these families directly, we are not all connected to the facility in a way that we're getting detailed information about their other service referrals. Sometimes we are, if we work with the municipality or we have great connectivity in case management, but some of us aren't case managers. Some of us are just providing that support in the space that when we're engaging them, we're talking about value. We're talking about decision-making. We're talking about your concepts of accountability. We're teaching them about the value of self-inventory, which all involves self-reporting. So if we don't keep contact with them, we may not get the full details on what happens with them when they exit. Nor, also, if we don't follow up with them to keep them in our alumni network and framework, we don't know the ongoing lessons of what unfolds for them as they continue to experience life, right? So what I'd like to do, Frank Walker is one of the fathers that's featured in the film. Has most people in the room seen the film? Anybody not seen the film? I'll be sure not to ruin it for you. I'll encourage you to watch it. It's on Netflix for the next 24 and a half years. You borrow somebody's subscription or get it, try to get a trial. If you don't have it, it's worth it. But Frank Walker is one of the fathers featured in the film. But not only is he a father featured in the film, he's dad. His daughter, Jayana, and him have a very passionate relationship that when you watch the film, you'll see. Passion does not mean always great or easy, but the resourcefulness and resilience to continue to show up is a testimony of love. It doesn't mean that coming home is easy and it's a song and testimony and glory and a happy fairy tale ending. What it means is we as parents wake up as brand new children. Parents of brand new children every day. They wake up with a brand new parent that still got more things to figure out every day. And as we go through life, the dedication to want to hang in there with you while it gets tough is what we do as parents. That's what we do. And that's how we show up. But better than I can tell you, Frank's lived experience is a bit different than mine. He came into this for his own reasons, which he'll share with you. But when he came into this space, he was introduced to it based off of an opportunity, based on the circumstances that he was already living, but he's still here. So not only is Frank a dad in the film, Frank is also an ambassador for the project. So when we have these opportunities, what I talk about when it comes to data and experience and all that stuff is great, but Frank's lived experience is far beyond anything that I could impress upon you. So I want to invite Frank to share also. I'm going to ask him a few questions if you will allow me to. Check. Yeah. You can come up. I'm going to ask him a few questions to get some perspective from him. And as we move through the rest of the content, I'm not going to do death by PowerPoint with y'all. I'm going to move through the rest of the slides quickly, and we'll come back and open it up for some questions for everybody once we get to the end, if that's okay. But Frank, let me ask you, going back to the time that you were in that space when you first learned about the film, right? And your experiences up to them, what were some of the biggest challenge you faced up to that point being an incarcerated father?
Coming up to the fatherhood?
Yeah, just before it, after it, and moving on through it.
It was a big challenge for a couple of, because it was a couple of me and a few other guys that was in the program as well.
Mm-hmm.
We were speaking like they say, it was a different opportunity for contact visit because we wasn't having it. So some people was getting in it for the wrong reason.
Right.
And they didn't know that it was end up bonding them with their daughters and helping them understand how to be a father, because a lot of them didn't. They wasn't in their kids like I was, but I was more in the streets than anything. So when we got in there and we got in our little circle and got to communicating and introducing each other, and the list that we used to write down on the board, that what's fatherhood, what's a father, and all this. So everybody had an opinion on what's a father, what's a father, and what's the father roles compared to being a dad. We grew from that.
So let me ask you, you kind of touched on it. If you look at your perspective before as a father, and then after the dance to your release and through your release, what changed for you, particularly after going through that process, seeing your daughter after you had all those challenges and communicating with her, from the end of the dance through you returning home and connecting back with her? What were some of the things you experienced in that space?
Oh, heartbreak. Cause that like, I don't never want to experience that again. So it make you change. Because your daughter see you and cause it hurt them, especially when it was time to leave. So they was really heartbroken. So that put a toll on you right there. But it made me see life in a different way. Cause I was facing life. I was facing life. So on a conspiracy through Homeland Security, but I fought them. I kept fighting and fighting because I was brought in, and that's another thing. Conspiracy can lead to anything. I could communicate with everybody in here, and we all go in because they communicate with me on the wiretap, and ain't got nothing to do with the case, but they lock them up. And so sometimes it's the law. That's all. It's just the law.
That's right. So when you returned home, what was your biggest challenge in reconnecting with her? Without getting too deep into it, the biggest challenge that you faced in reestablishing.
But my challenge was getting that bond back, because I lost her trust by going in, because we was together every day. But leave it up to the mother on the film. She, man or mother, she ain't like our bond. See what I'm saying? But my daughter was always with me. But where she was living with me when I got locked up, but she was with her mother because I was out of town at a show, and they locked me up once I got back. And she ain't seen me since, in 5 years, because her mother wouldn't allow her to come and see me. And that's another thing when it comes to father trying to be a parent to their child, because sometimes the mother interfere with that.
It's a concept that we know, and sometimes when the hurt is present, the healing takes time, and we don't get to put a time frame on healing for people, and it's easy to be triggered into what they experience because it's two completely different experiences. One for the custodial parent who's on the outside trying to protect one way, and one for dad who wants to protect the child in a different way from following the path that I follow, from falling into this position. And I don't want to say so much to you that it triggers you again to relive that pain and experience. I want to ask you one more question now, Frank. When you came back home, what resources or what things would have supported your transition better? Because I think that's something that goes underserved in conversations, that as practitioners, we all have different resource base, we all have different wraparound services or the lack thereof, but there's no lack of conversation necessary, if that's the way to say it. We need those conversations to know how to better inform our own practices. And sometimes the best people we can get the information from are the ones who come home to the challenges.
Well, some people use the reentry program. Me, I got family support. I was raised like, I'm gonna go get it on my own. Like, I know how to get $1, legal or illegal, but I choose legal.
That's right.
I've been out 5 years. I've been working with autistic kids for like 3.5. At my Angelo's elementary school, and E.W. Stokes. And I also worked for RCM on the side with autistic kids as well at home. So The biggest challenge is just the support. Definitely the community, because that stigma is real, and it sometimes it hinder you from moving forward. Like one of my jobs at the school, I was with them 2 years, 2.5 years. When my FBI background came back, they let me go because the old charge over 40 years ago. 40 years ago. And my supervisor was upset because he stated that they had a meeting in reference to that. They could use their discretion on if they want to keep a person or not, all depending on his background. And nobody never said nothing to him. They just let me go. Then they called me back to ask me, could I get it expunged? Because they didn't want to let me go, but due to the fact, the nature of it, I say, so I'm being punished twice. I done served my time. I served 22 years on a murder charge and then come home and you hinder me from moving forward. So sometimes it can help you, but it be hard. And then the reentry, like now you got so many people coming home from prison that's in the inside in position. If they know you and they don't like you, they're gonna clip your wings. So you can't move forward. So you steady waiting and waiting and waiting and fighting and fighting. I don't use it at all. I just put my footwork in.
What I hear you say is you didn't allow any excuse to stand in your way. So one thing I do want to touch on, because I want these people to know, you very humbly avoid talking about this sometimes.
Yeah.
Tell them what you're working on, your nonprofit.
Oh, on my nonprofit I'm working on called Soy Save Our Youth. To work with battered kids and little girls and all that, and try to get with the government to fund, because I found a building to open up for shelter, school and all that, but I'm just waiting on the government to see what they're gonna do.
We are waiting on them right now, but
Yeah.
it's rough out here in these streets.
Yeah.
But thank you, Frank.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back to the impact campaign and then try to open it up in about 10 minutes for questions from everybody. Thank you, brother. In reflecting what we've taken away from our experience with this film, it went to Sundance in 2024. I found out in November, got a phone call from Angela. Hey, the film is finished. And I had probably about a year before that stopped asking about the film because it went through COVID. We would still do telephone calls and interviews, but it was just a thing. But quietly, it was still working. It was still moving. Angela was Angela. And if you watch the film, if you've seen the film, you know what I mean by me saying Angela is her unique, powerful, energetic self. She does not stop. She's a relentless leader. In her passion is simply working on behalf of those girls and whatever those ideas are. She was just as passionately working behind the scenes on the film. So she called in October 2023 and said, hey, I got some news for you. I'm like, what's up? She's like, you got to come to DC, pick either next Monday or the following Tuesday. I'm like, what's going on? The film is finished. I said, oh, okay, the film's finished. Cool. I said, can I call Doc and tell him to come? She said, yeah, you can tell him to come. She called me back 2 minutes later. She said, I'm going to tell you something that I can't tell you, but I'm going to tell you. You got to hold on to this till December 6th. The film's going to Sundance. I'm like, huh? Sundance, like the film festival? And I don't know a lot about it. But I'm like, oh, the film festival? She said, yeah, but you can't tell anybody. I said, you tricking me now. She said, no, there's no public announcement until December 6th. Cool. I called Doc. I said, Doc, such date, you got it? He's like, can I bring my wife? I said, yes, Doc, bring your wife. Of course, I'm not getting in trouble with Ms. Monica. That's not happening. So he brought her, came in. We're watching it for the first time together. This is the very first time I've seen the entirety of the story. I work with the dads. I know Frank. I loosely know Jayana. I don't know Mom. And that's how it is with the dads and all of the children, because everything happens in these separate compartments to have everybody positively equipped. So we watch it for the first time. We're blown away. It goes to Sundance. Before we leave Sundance, we running me, Frank, Mark, and we were the only dads there. And then all of the girls' moms were there, the 4 girls that you see featured in the film. We were running around Sundance doing press runs and all this stuff. By the 3rd day, we hit our first screening. We start hearing buzzes about Netflix, and we get fussed at, don't post that. You don't know what's going on. Angela's catching us like, don't you post, don't you post. they talk about nothing. Nothing has been signed yet. People are just talking. Well, by the time we got home, we figured out Netflix won the bidding war. So it started this rush from the January of 2024. It goes into Netflix editing. We start doing a couple of things. We start doing screenings for film festivals, whoever they want to come. If they wanted Frank to show up, Frank is going. They want Jayana, Razia, and the other girls to show up, that's who's going. If they want me, I'm going. If they want Angela, she's going. So we did several of those events throughout the year. But what also happened with Angela negotiating that contract, which is so important, this is not a film, it's a documentary. Nobody gets paid from a documentary because then you're an actor. And so your rubric is adulterated. But she negotiated with them to be able to use the film for impact screenings. Impact screenings meaning we can partner with organizations that want to leverage impact, that want to utilize this film as a way shower tool. What can be done? We advocate for parts of this work we can set up in the correct way and show the film. We can't sell tickets, but the impact campaign is to work with and through organizations on some of the outliers and themes that you see highlighted in the film. So As a Date with Dad Dance was started by Girls for a Change. Girls for a Change leads the impact campaign that we've created. And this has allowed the film to continue to have life and continue to be a story that highlights the power of the relationships between fathers and their children, and the importance of supporting Black and brown girls, as well as providing a voice for those men in the carceral setting who might not be heard from. So what it is what you see in the film is, go back. You see healing, justice, and transformation, but it highlights the transformative power of storytelling. These are lived experiences that you all have many anecdotes from the stories of the people that you serve that are no less important and no less powerful than this film. Because this film is an example of the lives of the people that you serve, right? So, when I didn't mean to hit it, it changed fast. Okay. So the impact campaign has three particular pillars, and those pillars that we operate within, the first one is about the impact screenings. We know change doesn't start in silence. Change starts in conversations. It has to have a starting point. And the impact screenings, we've been hosting quite a few of them throughout the country by partnering with schools, universities, community centers, government agencies, community-based entities, coalitions, and people who just want to effectuate a change or use it as a coalescing tool for the people that they serve, for them to see the power of very similar work, but not just for organizations that serve Black and brown girls and their fathers, but for organizations that are serving moms and the sons, or serving the entire nuclear family, or serving bio families, dealing with foster care, dealing with foster families. We've had no shortage of people that we partner with to show this film, even to the point of dealing with policymaking institutions and other entities that have different reasons of interest, but we show up just the same to be able to show this film, have the people in the film share their lived experiences when asked to come, so that they get a real life glimpse of what was on screen, but can talk to, touch, and learn and connect with the people that were involved in the film. Also to give them the example of, just like we encourage our children to dream big and take the glass ceiling off our thinking, I think what this film illustrates is no matter how counterintuitive it was to want to have a date with dad dance in a carceral setting, there are other great ideas that are just as fantastic that are going on in supporting families and services. Right here in Maryland, they have one of the only unique models of a program for the Girl Scouts that happens in a carceral setting, where moms are the den mothers for the Girl Scout troops, and the daughters of those women go into the facility for a weekend each month. I don't know if it's still going on, but I know for a number of years, they were having great impact numbers on family reunification and on the recidivism of those same women who were in that program. They weren't coming back at the same rates as some of their peers who didn't have that service to them. So this is why we do those things. We know these screenings aren't passive. They activate local solutions. They challenge norms. They inspire ideas for people to think big differently. When we get the question, well, how come you don't do something for mothers and sons? You all can probably guess my response or Angela's response. Why don't you do something for mothers and sons? And that's not to say that it's not a noble work, but it is foolish to think that we have to silo the solution. We have to be the only ones that can do it when we found one particular thing that works with this dynamic in these families that works well. We want to keep doing this. But if you want to do something for the mothers and the sons or for the entire family, we want to stand beside you and champion what you're doing too, because that story needs to be told and needs to be shown. But we're here breaking generational curses and navigating incarceration, which is an ever-changing landscape. Okay, so the second pillar is education fund. And the education fund is in place because we know that supporting these girls that were not only in the film, but the continuing cohorts of girls who are in Girls for a Change in their various programs or connect to their programs, that's community regeneration in progress. When we invest in our youth, they brighten the light for the future. And that's the goal of most of our programs, especially for those of us who work with fathers and families. We are investing in those fathers and families for them to invest in their children and be more positive supports so they can avoid the negative statistics that are waiting for everybody when there's absence or fragmentation going on. We fight against the momentum of those things by investing in the future. So investing in those girls' post-secondary education is really important. We believe that preparing them for the world is not easy, but it's a strategy that has to be applied. And we utilize this film to do that as well, to highlight the importance of continuing to support those girls. So when you see Gianna, who's going to be graduating soon, the goal is for her to have her post-secondary education supported. When you see Aubrey, and you see her in the film, and you realize that she's smarter than most of us in the room combined, right, with her young self, but we need to make sure she's supported in that space because brilliance wasted doesn't always have a good ending, right? Or brilliance is not highlighted. And these experiences, if it takes the ceiling off their thinking, it should take the ceiling off of where they aim in life. Not that they can't choose whatever, but we owe it to them to support them because they were vulnerable enough to and brave enough to allow us into their lives, especially those that have their lives on the big screen, right? So the fund is an investment in their leadership, their future, and the legacy and love of resilience that their fathers and their families are trying to reclaim. And the third pillar is policy and advocacy. And this is a difficult one to tackle. Everyone in this room who works with municipalities or works with policy knows it takes a lot of funding, a lot of effort, a lot of influence, a lot of connectivity, and a lot of lobbying to be able to get policy change. But when we look at these concepts of policy change, this film courageously exposes the trauma of family separation and the flaws of carceral visitation practices. It's raw because you see what happens. You heard Frank just explain it. We looked at it as another visit because we weren't getting in-touch visits. They got so much more out of that, and none of it was easy, but all of those things play into what is necessary to support families and move into a place of healthy regeneration and healthily connecting them to making sure they're connected to their families. So we can't talk about responsible fatherhood and ignore the system that's making fathers inaccessible to their children. They go hand in hand. And through policy and advocacy, the campaign seeks to build coalitions to push the humane visitation practices, support family reunification efforts, and disrupt the cycle of recidivism, but also highlight those policies which provide a sound platform for brown and black families who have been under-advocated for, especially in a day and time where ethnicity is being politicized yet again and highlighted yet again. The concept of diversity and equitable playing fields is being politicized yet again. It's a new playbook for me, but I'm a student of history. I was born in 1970. My father integrated into a school system as a first-year integration student in 1964. I was born in 1974. Let me not date myself. My sister was born in 1970. But 10 years before I was born, my dad was a first-year integration student. I now know why he says the things he said because his experience up to 11th grade was in segregation. So whatever we're dealing with now in this day and time and all of these moving parts, the playbook is not that old that they're relying on to go back to what was before. We have to be mindful of that, and we have to be the ones speaking up for policy advocacy and change wherever it lies, right? But it's our duty to speak truth to power and advocate for policies that center healing over punishment and center family reunification and presence over absence. And so next is a call to action. And what I'm mindful of is the fact that daughters it's a mirror. It's a mandate. I sat in on a session yesterday from the gentleman from Arizona, from out by Las Vegas, who have a substance abuse program and they deal with men in the carceral setting. And I'm listening to them share their experiences. They had a fantastic framework, a DRT framework, very simple but brilliant. And I'm so excited about what they did because it's a mirror to the similar services that we provide. Not what we do, but still healing along the same vein because they approach it in a different way. And so the mandate that we ask is, how can your organization amplify this movement? And how can this film amplify your own movement and what you're doing? How can it drive you back to look at what you're doing to say, maybe we can do things in a slightly different way to get a different outcome, or maybe we keep doing what we're doing because we're close, whether it's been recognized or not. We got all this data here, and we have all these families that positively support what we've done for us to keep going. Then thinking about the aspects of who in your community can help, and how can you use daughters as a tool for transformation in your own community? And that's part of the challenge that we asked for, because it's up to us. I had a mentor that told me several years ago, I was a fighter growing up because I was paranoid and couldn't take a threat, not because I was tough. But it led me to learn how to navigate conflict. But I had an elder that told me when I was 20 years old, he said, you're a very good writer and you can fight, but you do better off writing the good fight. And I learned that in this work that we do, writing the good fight is what we've all been doing. It's what led us here. We need evidence-based practices and strategies. We need the data from pre and post testing. We need all of those things. But what are we doing to reinvigorate the stories that we're writing and capture more than just data and statistics and numbers? We don't live in that space. The people who want to give us money live in that space or don't want to give us money. They live behind the numbers. We live with the people. When I go in there with Frank, I told them when I was in there with them, the only difference between me and you is a couple of decisions and the consequences that come off of decision making. And in whatever I may or may not have done, I didn't get caught if I did anything. But that wasn't an admission of guilt. But what it is to say is I'm coming in here with you to meet you on a level, and eventually I want you to come home so we can do this. Because you are a better advocate for your story than I could ever be. I'm just a way short here to provide a platform, but help you take away the excuse. And so I'm gonna get this click down. My thumb might be too big. I don't know. So these are the gentlemen that were in the film. This was taken on the day of the dance. And you'll see several faces. Out of the men you see here, more than 2/3 of them are home now and have been home and have not gone back in. And so, in support of these efforts to continue doing this work and bringing it to communities and also doing more dances, which there are plans to do, please support our impact campaign. If you can screenshot the QR code, that would be great. And it's not all about money. Sometimes it's just about partnering organizations. We have cities that will be doing these dances in, and we're looking for wraparound services. We're looking for other people to be able to help support the back end of what it is that we're doing when we're not in the city anymore. They still need those services and supports when they're coming home. They still need the resources. But I thank you for giving me the time to share and allowing Frank the platform to speak. I want to open it up really quickly. Unless my clock is off, I see Doc is up. So I thought I had 10 minutes, but my clock could be wrong. Okay, yes, I want to field questions in the room. And if you have a question for Frank, I'll bring you a mic. Got you one step ahead.
First of all, I want to commend you guys for a great documentary. Man, if whoever didn't see it, I'm telling you now, forget the tissues, bring a towel next to you, because you gonna cry. You gonna cry. And I watched it 5 times. I ended up watching it with my daughter. I surprised her. I said, Tay, come to the house. I want you to see something, because I did 14 years in prison. So I wanted her, and she felt everything in that. She felt everything in that documentary, man. And we cried together, and I'm glad that we have a great relationship. So Frank, I wanted to ask you, and I'm only asking this. So after the, I don't want to spoil it, but after the dance, and y'all had to take them clothes off,
Yeah.
and you had to walk back to your cell, what was your thoughts? And I'm saying that to say this: when I came home, I went to a wedding and I was dancing with my daughter. My daughter was about 9 when I came home, and she held me tight and she said, Dad, don't never go back. Don't never leave me again. And I started crying on the dance floor, and nobody knew why I was crying, but it was our communication of father-daughter that we had. But what was your thoughts as soon as you got back in that cell and you sat on that bed and that cell locked? What was your thoughts for the rest of the night?
Everything. Everything came through my mind. It just, her leaving hurts. That crush you. Well, you know, that it take a lot. So much, man. I only,
Take your time, bro. Take your time, man.
yeah.
And I won't answer for Frank, but he said as much to me, and I will share what he said. He'd be mad at me for sharing it. That was part of his fuel. That when I get out, we just had a conversation the other day about making things happen and making them happen in a way that we don't put ourselves in a position to go back. His fuel has been relentless. So whatever those feelings were, it contributed to part of the reason why his choices have been to stay out.
Yeah, definitely. It's easy to make a dollar if I wanted to, but the experience and especially how I went in. Yeah. Yeah. Went from it was fun when it lasted, but I went from being a millionaire to being like this. So, you know, but it's easy though. Saying you ain't got to worry about looking over your back, watching the stick-up boys, the kidnappers, and protecting your family and all that, and the police. So then I really wasn't in the game too much anyway. I just happened to got trapped up on a conspiracy because I really was out the game during that time. I was done because wasn't nothing else in the game for me no more. But not knowing I was on investigation for 5 years and I wasn't doing nothing. I went in there, ain't nothing, no video surveillance. It's just Homeland Security doing notes. I'm on the surveillance 24 hours a day. They making notes, writing my every move, work, home, here, there, out of town. They out of town with me. So they were living my life with me for 5 years. So, you know, and I got time just by association. And that what made me more stronger now to overlook certain things. I don't put myself in different places or surround myself with certain type of people. I might see from a distance, but other than that, me hanging around with you, coming on the block, having fun, sitting down, kicking it, watching again. No, I can't do that. I'd rather do it in my own household. And that's how I do it.
Anybody else? Okay, who else?
No, I was saying, did anybody else have any questions? Thank you for honoring us with the time. And I want to add also, Frank was here with me last year. So the reason why we did a 1-year reflection, this was the first impact screening that we did last year after we came from Sundance. This was the first of the impact screenings, and the first time we were able to come back to DC and show the film public. Was at this conference last year, and Frank and Mark, another dad in the film, were here with me last year. Mark couldn't be here today, but Frank this is testimony to Frank being here 2 years in a row. He doesn't know I'm trying to quietly nudge him into being the next MPCL master trainer.
Hey, there we go. There we go. There we go.
Thank you.
This is a powerful moment. You know, let's show Chad and Frank how much we appreciate them being here. All I can say, Frank, I love being a Black man, but sometimes it's inconvenient. You know what I mean? And the realities that many of us face all of us at some point during our lives. And it is about choices. And I'm just so happy to have been a part of just witnessing, you know, what I've seen from the film to your return and others' returns. You know, I've been in communication with Frank. We're Facebook friends. You know what I mean? And you know, we be family, right? We're family, and it's a matter of, like he said, it's about support. It's about support. It's about support. He has his own dreams and ideas. You know what he wants to do. Support him in that, because that's what he wants to do. And it's just so important that we understand that there's many men locked up. You know, last data I looked at, 700,000 men return home every year. 700,000. Most of them are serving sentences of 3 years or less. And so that means they're going to be back. And so what are we going to do? And we need programs that help support and to help them achieve the dreams that they want in life. I'm just so proud of you, man. And I would just say, keep on keeping. And we're a network now, and we're going to continue to raise this issue. And I would hope that you get inspired to work with incarcerated and returning citizen populations, because they're very much a part of a large segment, unfortunately, of low-income communities, Black communities, Native communities, and we really do need to provide that support. And so, you know, we do recognize folks here. And so, on behalf of this conference, I want Frank to come up here. And Frank, this is a certificate of appreciation. The following certificate of appreciation is given to Mr. Frank Walker for your outstanding contributions as a speaker on Reflections of the Daughters documentary at the 27th Annual International Fatherhood Conference, June 2nd, 2025, Making a Difference for Generations to Come. Frank Walker. And you know, Chad, even though Chad got inducted into our Hall of Fame yesterday for the cumulative amount of things he's done, we also want to appreciate him for his efforts in this general session. And it says again, the following certificate of appreciation is given to Mr. Chad Morris for your outstanding contributions as speaker on Reflections of the Daughters documentary at the 27th Annual International Fatherhood Conference, June 2nd, 2025, Making a Difference for Generations to Come. Okay? And these are, listen, let me tell you why we recognize. We recognize because, you know, recognition lasts a long time, you know, and for us, it means that we're going to be on your desk or your office. You're going to see our name. You're going to remember this moment. And so I want you to pick up a lesson from how important recognition is. And I used to work for the United Way for 25 years, and we raised a lot of money with United Way. And people really didn't understand the success of United Way. And let me tell you what it is. And I brought it to MPCL, recognition. Recognition. Are you platinum, gold, silver? And whatever you do, whatever donation you make to United Way, you go in these business executive offices, you go into some of these other community leader offices, and you'll see that United Way plaque, you know, and we're trying to do the same thing. When you go in somebody's office, you'll see something with our name on it. And that's so important to understand as a value proposition and also how you conduct business. Thank you so much for being here. This is our last general session for this conference. I hope to see you later on at the dinner, our favorite father's dinner. For those of you who are going on the Hill, the time to go is now, and we will see you back here at the hotel no later than 5:30, so we can start our dinner at 6:30 and be out here by 8 o'clock and send you back home. All right? Good afternoon.